Hi everyone, welcome to episode 96 of the ITSM crowd. We are closing in on our 100th episode, which is going to be a big one, so keep your eye out for that. Today we are kicking off 2022 with a gaze into the crystal ball, which might seem ridiculous after what's happened in the last 18 months, but we're going to try and put some structure around what's happened, what we think is going to happen, and in order to do that, I've collected a panel of fabulous service management experts with lots of different perspectives. So I think it's going to be a good chat today. We're going to kick off with some introductions. So going from left to right on my screen, Michelle, if you want to say hello first, please.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. I'm Michelle Major-Goldsmith. I'm based in Perth, Western Australia, previously from the UK. So I'm a service management consultant and trainer with specialist interest, I guess, in ITIL and SIAM and all things associated with leadership and culture. So looking forward to having a chat with essentially what are my good friends today. So thanks, Claire, for inviting me.
Fabulous. Thank you, Michelle. And Liz?
Oh, hi. Not quite as glamorous in West Yorkshire, Michelle.
How dare you?
Beautiful day though it is. Liz Whitefield here from Hippo Digital. We're a full service design, digital design consultancy, and I'm the client experience director. So we work predominantly across public sector. So we're all about designing and building services that are usable, feasible and sustainable, and that we can deliver and maintain as well. So I've had a long-standing relationship with service management, trying to understand how agile and user-centered design integrates into when we get the hard stuff delivered and we're having to deploy and maintain service delivery. So I've always taken a keen interest in service management and how better design, how design can help sort of integrate into that.
Brilliant. Thank you. And Anna?
Hi, good morning everyone from South Manchester, so not exactly Australia. Very frosty here today. So I've worked in service management for over 25 years as a consultant, a manager and a trainer. I've been associated with service integration and management and ITIL for many years. I'm currently working on a large project to help a public sector organisation in the UK move its services to the cloud. So lots of new ground that needs to be broken there, lots of lessons to learn from other practices.
Brilliant. Thank you. And Rachel?
Thanks, Claire. Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel McElroy and I work for Cloud Gateway. Cloud Gateway basically exists to provide easy access connectivity securely into the HSCN, the PSN, multiple cloud providers and the internet. So basically we securely connect anything to everything. So underpinning services for citizens, work a lot in the public sector and also obviously applications. So digital is obviously going crazy. I've worked in the technology industry for about 10 years now, and I kind of cut my teeth in the service management world. So I'm grateful to be here today with these lovely ladies on this panel.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll come back to you later to explain some of those things you've just said as well. So yeah, my name's Claire Agutter. I'll be hosting today, but not doing much of the talking as I'm running out of voice. I can see we've got a good group of people watching us live as well. So please do put your comments into YouTube chat and we can pick them up. It'd be good to hear about your experiences. If you've got any questions for the panel while you're watching live, pop them in there and we'd be happy to address these as well. It's always nice to get that collaboration. But the first thing that I suggested to our panel was just a little bit of reflection to think about how the last 18 months have actually affected service management, because there's been huge change across pretty much every aspect of our lives. So it's worth thinking about what that's meant for the industry that we work in. And Anna, I was going to come to you with this one first, if that's okay.
Yes, that's fine. Thank you. I think it's an interesting topic. What do we mean by service these days? When you look back over the history of ITIL and service management, it's always been ITSM. I think these days we're moving now towards service management. I can't think of an organisation that doesn't depend on technology and IT to deliver outcomes to its customers wherever they might be. And I think these days we need to really understand how the business interacts with IT, how quickly we need to respond to their requirements. Lots of considerations about how we marry development methodologies with the ongoing operational support. How do we factor in agile ways of working? How do we do incremental handover of that technology into the service organisation? How do we make them ready? One of the challenges we're facing at the moment is how would we do change management with our organisations and our customers. There's a very strong methodology called ProSci, which is about adoption and change management. And what I'm finding in my current role is that we need to apply those disciplines to our support teams. So as well as preparing the customer for any changes that they need to make to move from on-premises services to the cloud, we now need to prepare our teams to be able to accommodate business needs, to respond quickly, to have the right capabilities and the right skills. We've got to deliver things just in time. We can't be ready too far in advance, because then you waste your capabilities and your time. And we need to be ready to understand the customer's changing priorities. So I think it's building on what ITIL 4 and other disciplines are focused on in the last few years. How do we recognise the business challenge? How do we respond to that with the right technology? How do we make best use of our capabilities? How do we skill our teams up? I think these days there's lots of questions around, what do we need a service desk for? If we've got a team of people who are all operating that technology, do we need a dedicated set of people who are just responding to customer queries when we've got AI, we've got chatbots, we've got tools that allow you to automate your workflow and send calls and questions to the right teams at the right time? And the emphasis that we've always got to focus on is the service performance and the business perception of what you're delivering. We might be doing great things, but at the wrong time. We might not be meeting those requirements. So I think there's a huge focus on governance, on handling multi-cloud environments, based on what Rachel was saying about all those different clouds. And my real interest at the moment is, how do we introduce the right level of governance to manage multi-cloud suppliers when they all have demands and requirements for you to get the best out of the investment that you're making in the technology. So I think it's all about agility. It's about responding correctly, having the right capabilities, understanding your customer needs, and also from a service integration and management point of view, getting the best out of those service providers that you're working with to deliver a seamless service to the customer. So I think we're not there yet. I think there's a lot more challenges that we need to face, but there's some good tools and methods that allow us to recognise those challenges and address them where we can.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think that the last 12 months, one of the things that has been really emphasised is the importance of things like SIAM and having that collaborative relationship with your supply chain so that you can be adaptable. But I think, Liz, if I come to you, because I know you've done a lot of work with public sector organisations where some of the impact of the pandemic has been felt, most significantly. What changes have you seen?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really resonates with a lot of what Anna was saying. So I think what we've been able to do with sort of like the cloud re-platforming, things like that, is address what has been an unprecedented challenge. So the demand on digital services, and we see that across health and the welfare sector that we've worked in, has just been, we could not have anticipated it. And the ability for us to, that one is, we've seen the re-platforming because so systems could be sustainable and could cope with the growth. And the pace at which that's been achieved, I've seen in public sector, is quite phenomenal. Having worked in public sector extensively across my career, it's been amazing to see that change. But equally, its ability to respond, particularly around some of the COVID demand and in the health sector as well. And I think that's that ability to kind of respond and capitalise on what things like re-platforming, what improvements in service management can do. So how do you capitalise on that within where you design your services and develop your services as well? So I've seen that the response to those challenges, I think we, despite it's been quite stressful, I think for people on the ground working on it, I think it's just been amazing. But equally, for me, that set that, and I think across our sector, is the challenges in capability, and the people, and how do we grow and ensure that we've got the capability and the skills. So one, upskilling people in new ways of working in new ways, but equally bringing new capability into the market that we're working, because that demand, whilst we've got great technology, capitalizing on automation, AI, self-serve, all those things will be brilliant, make things as easy as possible. I think particularly around service management, I think bringing people, finding in our sector, bringing people on is really important. So the work that Michelle does on training and upskilling, we've just launched the first program of our academy, bringing 25 new people in to upskill and reskill around digital skills. I think that's what we're going to see predominantly address, because that's been the biggest challenge, I think.
Yes.
Really. But yeah, it's been a really exciting time for innovation, I think.
Yeah.
Horribly, not in the right sort of sector, but definitely we've seen that a lot.
Yeah, and it's tempting, isn't it? I think to always think tech, but it is absolutely the people. And before this, we had a digital skills shortage. So the fact that that's now been compounded is it's going to be a challenge. And that there's big changes that need to happen in order to create that pipeline of people that we need to keep services running. So Michelle, other side of the world, so slightly different perspective. What changes have you seen in service management over the last 12-18 months?
Yeah, so it is a different perspective because I guess for many parts of Australia, certainly we've not seen the impacts of COVID quite as you have in, based in the UK. So, but it's not been without its challenges. So whilst we haven't necessarily been impacted, we've been prepared for that kind of impact and taking the necessary steps. So the skills shortage that, what you alluded to there, that's a massive thing for us because we get quite a few overseas workers. And, and that has been a challenge, getting people actually into the economy and getting them upskilled and ready to work. So I have seen much more of an investment in home skills and younger people, straight out of education, looking at things like scholarships and ways that organisations can essentially pick out maybe people that they wouldn't necessarily in the past have thought of to try and put them or skill them up to, to undertake those roles. I think also what's quite interesting is the way that, the current workforce has had to adapt. So I talked a lot about technology solutions and so on, and Liz has referred also to some of those. I think that's super important, but what I've also noticed is the change in skills needed within our people. So I'm thinking about things like, complexity thinking and problem solving, creating cultures where we can share information in a different way. So certainly for me, the impact has been that despite the fact I haven't necessarily been restricted where I am to go to work and deliver in a classroom, the people I'm teaching are not in that position. So we've had to find different ways to teach people. We've had to evolve different knowledge sharing strategies and think about different ways of doing things. So for me, that's been a core focus. And I guess also just thinking about the day-to-day as an individual, what I've found quite challenging, I'm sure you found similarly, because we're spending more time online, less of those face-to-face meetings and doing things on Teams and other technologies, you find that your diary is absolutely jam-packed from minute to minute to minute. You don't have the gaps that you used to be able to walk to a meeting room and have a coffee and whatever. So that cognitive switching as well as an individual, I think is really challenging, preparing yourself for the next thing, especially if you're doing quite a diverse role where you have to move from one thing to the next. So it's had huge impacts, and I guess that's just from a country which hasn't until quite recently felt the full impacts of the COVID situation. So I'm very much watching this space in terms of other people, but also reflecting that despite the fact it hasn't been a massive deal, and I don't want to underplay it anyway, but compared to the impacts in other countries, I've still seen really significant changes to the way we do so many things. And it's an awful lot to think about for sure.
Definitely. And Rachel, to come to you as well, because I know you're the queen of the pack diary. What have you seen in the last 12 months?
Wow, it's interesting that we've picked up on sort of skills shortages and the ways that we've had to change how we work and things like that, because I think I described, my working life the other day as my feet haven't touched the floor since, the 4th of January. What struck me the other day actually was some of the younger members of our team will never work full time in an office environment. And, having been brought through, the culture of being measured by the time that you're actually physically in a workplace, that shift to a different way of working and also becoming more, of an outcomes driven business, which I think we are as a sort of, agile tech, relatively new company. But, that whole complete shift to trust, to autonomy, you know, to actually really truly having to be agile. Because if you look at what we've all gone through over the last sort of 18 months, we've all actually been in quite a loop of continuous innovation, and it would be a real shame to lose that, I think, from businesses. But I feel like we're approaching a time now where we're going from make do, because, you know, everyone took their laptops home and we had to make do. But now actually, how do we make it great? How do we make our experiences, our tooling, you know, everything that we do actually work for, you know, a hybrid world that we're definitely going to be in sort of moving forward? We've got a really good opportunity, I think, to really mix things up, deliver great service, you know, quickly, deliver brilliant services out to citizens. You know, the speed of transformation and change has been unbelievable. If you take doctors, for example, who would have thought, you know, 18 months ago, you'd actually be able to talk to your doctor online, fill out a form, send them some photos, boom, done, etc. You know, posting your prescriptions on paper was what we were dealing with sort of 18 months ago. So, you know, the rate of change has been brilliant. It would be a shame to lose that momentum. Probably we could all benefit from slowing down a little bit, just for our own sanity's sake, I think. But, you know, how do we go from make do to make it great? And how do we support those people coming through who are ultimately going to live a very different kind of work life to the ones that we've experienced? Certainly as a leader, I think about that quite often, really, because, you know, I think the working world has changed forever. And interestingly enough, I think just this week there's 30 companies in the UK trialing a 4-day week. So I'm sure a lot of businesses will be looking at that with a lot of interest.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I think, you know, with the people that are watching live, it would be good to hear your thoughts as well, and if that reflects your experiences over the last 12, 18 months. But I think, you know, Rachel, you made a really good point there about the fact that everybody's been working so hard. You know, we've all kind of touched on the fact that your diary's gone mad. There seems to be less time. It's huge efforts to maintain business as usual. But how do we change this into something a bit more purposeful and a bit more structured? I think maybe, Liz, if I come to you first, you know, what are you expecting to see in the next 12 months as, touch wood, things become a little bit more stable?
Yeah, I think certainly the indications for us are that balance between working from home. So yeah, like everybody on this call, you know, went straight to sort of 100% working from home on day one of the lockdown in the UK, and that's really been sustained right through over the last just over 2 years. It'll be nearly 2 years, as we know. So what we're expecting is certainly more move towards hybrids and using locations as a place for people. So locations and centering on a location as a place for people to engage and communicate and stay connected. So that becomes a social space in terms of for teams. So all of our team are client facing, would normally sit in offices, project offices delivering. Those offices don't exist now or are certainly a minimal staffing. So we're using our office location to bring people together. We're also using more event, you know, reconfiguring space, and we're seeing that across the sector. So where you're doing face-to-face, it's event space, it's planning space, and where you can bring that environment together, as well as the normal kind of the, you know, seeing the whole environment change in that structure. And the way commercially that's working in terms of the balance between, there's an expectation, I think, from our clients across public sector, and we'll see this in the private sector, you know, that it will be a hybrid offer, that you'll be offering, you know, either a 60-40 ratio or that expectation that you'll get together. Within Agile, I think that's a perfect kind of, and where I think, you know, area of focus in terms of you know, there are key ceremonies and activities within Agile that allow you to target those interactions to come together. But I do think that lack of bringing face-to-face back is really important, but also recognizing, I don't know if you find this, we need to recognize people's vulnerabilities and concerns about it. Whilst, you know, I might crave a face-to-face meeting in an office, and I do love to drop in just to sort of speak to people. I think some people that don't feel that way they're worried, they're nervous about it. And we've really got to recognise that people need different things, I think, now. And health and well-being has got to, for us, has formed a real core part of everything that we do in terms of mental health and awareness. And I think that's going to be more prevalent, I think, as we move forward as well into that structure. And what people are asking of us as well. We just talked about a demand on people and capability. They don't just want, it's not just about the job, it's about the company, it's about the culture that you offer. And that's really important, especially, and I don't know if people find it here, we're working on things that sometimes are really intense. Some of the services that our researchers and designers are dealing with, and some of the customers they're dealing with, it is a really intense and a very, very difficult area to work in when you're engaging with people going through some of the toughest times in their lives. So, creating an environment where people feel comfortable, they've got what they need that work for you as well is really important. But, again, an exciting time if we do it right. I think, your point, Rachel, is, having the right environment, the right kits, all of that, the right headsets, everything like that is really important. And physically, I'm interested as well to understand the fact is a physical impact on us moving desks, sitting in different places as well.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point about almost a diversity element of hybrid working, and this understanding that actually we have introverts and extroverts in our teams. We have people who love face-to-face. We have people who would be quite happy working from home forever. And certainly things like the switch to Zoom meetings have enabled some people to have a voice, whereas in a meeting full of big personalities, perhaps they wouldn't. So there's things that we can take from this to build more flexible, more diverse workspaces. But yeah, they're all fantastic points. And Rachel, to come to you as well, if you look in your crystal ball for the next 12 months, what are you expecting?
Well, I think a period of calm.
I hope so.
Please, yeah, a holiday. I think that people are very committed to making things work really well, and I think if you focus on giving your people the right tools and the right support and and the right freedom, I think, and autonomy to make the right decisions, as long as you are focused on your service delivery and ultimately what you're going to deliver for your customer, then I don't think any of us will go far wrong. I think that most organizations are probably closer to their customers than ever before, because you've supported them through some really, really tough times and been there for them when they've needed it. So yeah, I like to think calm, closer relationships, and and all good things.
Let's hope you're manifesting that as well. And Michelle, what about you? If you look forward to the next 12 months, what are you expecting to see?
Well, we're definitely doing lots of manifesting. I'm seeing that there's been a lot more focus, and you've alluded to it, on looking after yourself. So certainly, where I work, we're doing a lot more of the effort on having tips and learning packages for well-being, doing things like remote yoga with a teacher. Those kind of things. This is probably something that wouldn't been a widespread thing 18 months ago. So there's this real shift to focusing on people and making sure that they're well equipped to deal with changing circumstances. I think the other thing, and Rachel alluded to this before, I think we are hopefully in good organisations becoming more outcomes focused. So less about, when you're at work or what you're doing or whether you can be seen on Teams, and more about what you're actually delivering. And I think that's super important. So that whole trust and transparency and the culture change that requires, trusting people to do things and act in a certain way. So That's a leadership challenge. I think some people embrace it, some less so. But it's also a personal challenge. I spoke before about self-discipline and management and those kind of things. I think so. There's a two-sided shift that needs to happen in order to make that successful. So I've said that I certainly, from where I'm in Western Australia, have got the benefit of being able to watch this space and see what has happened. But one of the positive things I have noted is that in light of what has happened in other parts of the world, most of the organizations I'm working alongside are seeing this focus on how do we become more agile. They recognize the need that they can't wait for things to happen anymore. So how can they respond to that internal change and build teams and ways of working to be able to accommodate the changes we see? And the other part is that whole concept of resilience. So not just what can we do to make ourselves better and think about how we're evolving as an organization, but what can we do to worry about those, those pestle factors, which COVID being one, where things are happening to us at a rate of change, and unless we're prepared for it, then we're going to be unsuccessful as an organisation. So there's a whole host of things going on, from the personal to the professional, to changing the dynamics, to thinking more about how we do strategy in a different way. I mean, we've covered so much on this call. We could go on forever and ever. So it's a massive area. But yeah, I would say that I'm absolutely taking stock and watching what's going on in other places, just to have I guess a bit of a step forward in readiness for responding to those kind of changes when I experience them within my organisation and environment.
Yeah, you do have the advantage of seeing where we've messed it up or not, so
Absolutely.
that's quite useful. And Anna, some final thoughts from you on your predictions for the next 12 months.
I think we need to really focus on the role of women in technology and the equality of opportunity that we'll get. There's been the Bank of England did a survey on this. They feel that men are more likely to return to the office sooner than women, and women could be disadvantaged and risk their careers by not being present. And I think we've proven we can work on difficult, complex projects from home with people you've never met in real life before. I always say this, I don't know how tall anyone is. You meet them in real life and you get a different perspective. But what we're finding now is that conversations are just intentional now. You don't just have a chat. You don't just say, what do you think about this particular challenge that I'm facing? So I think it'd be nice to get back to a hybrid way of working. In lots of organisations, the senior leaders are saying they're not going to return to the office until the final person does. And I think, as Claire said, we've got an equality of opportunity in terms of people who've got different preferences and ways of working. And we've made it more accessible to people who have disabilities and have different needs to be able to contribute and deliver value to all of our teams. But I think it'd be great to see people's preferences recognised. If you want to work from home, that's fine. I think we've had a good impact on the environment. We're not travelling unnecessarily anymore. We're not wasting time commuting when we didn't need to, when something could have been done in a very brief meeting rather than a big workshop. So I think it'd be a focus on harnessing the talent that we've got at home, working more closely with our customers, delivering things more quickly and in a more efficient way. I think I'm still guilty of writing massive documents, and I think we perhaps need to move away from that and make things a bit more succinct. And the other thing that we're really focusing on is employee experience. So how do we embrace the technology to help our colleagues work better, give them more opportunities to talk to each other in less formal situations, and really enhance the digital wellbeing and digital skills and literacy that we all need. And I reskilled at the age of 50. It's a challenge, but we've got to make sure that everyone gets a chance to keep their careers active and fresh, and also give the young people who need to get into the workforce the opportunities as well. I think I read somewhere that we need 750,000 new workers in digital with an investment of £12 billion. So it's going to be a challenge for everybody to focus the right efforts and the right investment to get the outcomes that our customers need and that we need to be fulfilled in the workplace. So I don't think it's going to be straightforward, but I think it's great to see the conversations that we're having in organisations to look at wellbeing, to look at additional needs and requirements, and to really get the best out of all of our colleagues and customers.
Oh, thank you all so much. That is, honestly, I think if you're watching this, take 2 or 3 things away from it, because there's so much that we've covered in this session and so many good ideas. So just take a couple that are going to be relevant for your organisation and then spend some time to digest the rest, because there is just such a huge amount of ideas that we've shared there. So thank you so much, Michelle, Liz, Anna and Rachel. We are scheduling our next ITSM crowd for February, and we're going to have a little look at Verism and see how Verism's been progressing, and service management capabilities for the digital age. So that one's going to work nicely with our evolution of service management theme as well. But I think today, what an awesome way to kick off knowledge sharing for 2022. So thank you so much to our panel. Thank you to everybody who's been watching us live, and we will see you on the next episode of the ITSM crowd. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Claire. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Claire.